This is a 9-question reach back. Today's date is May 18th, 2021. So we're going to go through this one at a time. So make sure as you're correcting your partners, you look for the steps because 1 point is given for work, 1 point is given for answer. First question is a bed mass question, so it's 3/4 plus 1/5 times 13/10. Since you can cross reduce, it'll become 3/4 plus 13/50. Uh-oh, this looks complicated. What's the first common multiple? 4 and 50 share, Hermie. 100 is correct. So our common denominator will be 100. This will be 26 hundredths. This will be 25 times 3 is 75 hundredths, which is 101 hundredths, which is equal to 1 and 100th. So 1 point for appropriate work, 1 point for the answer of 1 and 100th. Question 2 says 1/10 plus 3/4 divided by 4. And we learned that division by whole numbers is the same thing as multiplying, excuse me, that's not 3/4, that's 3/5. 3/5 multiplied by the reciprocal of 4, which is 1/4. So when I do that, I get 3/20. So 1/10 plus 3/20 is the same thing as 2/20 plus 3/20, which is 5/20, or 1/4 in lowest terms. 1 point for the work and 1 point for the answer, 5/20. If they forgot to reduce to lowest terms, take a ½ point off for forgetfulness. 1/4. Your next question says bed mass, so it's 4, take away the product of 5 and -6, and then divide that by -2. I bet you a lot of people made mistakes, but we'll see. So it's 4, take away -30, divided by 2. And when I do that, I still have to do division next. So it's 4, take away -15. Keep flip change when subtracting. It's the easiest way to do it. Your final answer will be 19. 1 point for appropriate levels of work, your discretion. 1 point for the correct answer. Next question is also bed mass. It says -3 times the difference between 6 and 10. And take that answer and divide it by -2. So it's -3 multiplied by -4 divided by -2. Or +12 divided by -2, which is -6. Your next question gives you a nice, beautiful table. It will magnify it to make it easier. So the first question gives you 3/200ths, and there's 2 ways you can make that into a decimal. The absolute easiest way is to take the numerator and divide it by the denominator, and we get 0.015. 0.015. And as a percent, since percentages are out of 100, then the equivalent fraction is 1.5 out of 100, which is 1.5%, or 1.5%. They could have it like that, or if they're complex people, they can have 1.5. Either one of those is correct. 1.05. When I read it without saying 0.05, I said 1 and 500ths, or 1 and 500ths. That's the fraction. In lowest terms, in case they might have done it, it'd be 1 and 1/20. So 1 and 500ths, which is the same thing as 105 hundredths as an improper fraction, and therefore is equal to 105%. And the last question is 3/4%, which of course is the same thing as 3/4% written this way. As a bad fraction, it would be 0.75 over 100, which is 75 over 10,000. That's the answer as a fraction. Or in lowest terms, it would be, what would it be in lowest terms? 3/400ths? 400ths, right. 3/400ths, you're right. In lowest terms. But this is all I needed here. And as a decimal, 75 10,000ths is tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000. So 0.0075. That question's worth 6 points. Just the answers is all you needed. Your next question says a $20 item is discounted 30%, then taxed 18%. There's many ways to do it. I'm going to show you creating that mathematical statement that represents this whole sentence. So if you discount something, a $20 item's 30%, you will only be paying for 70% of the $20. So if it's discounted $30, or 30%, you pay for 70% of it. So I'm going to put brackets around it. That's the discounted price. And to be taxed by 18%, if I multiply it by 1, I would have the discounted price. And an additional 18%, I would then multiply it by that. So therefore, 0.7, 70% of $20 is $14 multiplied by 1.18. The answer is $16.52. Now, the levels of work you might have for that are very different. So if they have work at all, give them the mark for it. If they have no work, they get no mark for their work, but the answer is 1652. So that question is worth 2 points. Your next question is what do we call this type of question? So remember what this is called? Proportional reasoning question, right? We're using proportions. So you could have taken it down to a unit rate. The person could have done, it's this much for 5, it's this much for 1, it's this much for 6. We learned how to do that. The other way, they might have multiplied 5 by 1.2 to get the answer. They might have done that as well. But the most common way is to put an x there and say 5x equals 1440, I think. 1440, is that right? Divide both sides by 5, and x would equal 1440 divided by 5. 288, is that right? 288's right? That's right, 288 is the correct answer. So 1 point for any of those works, as long as they either did unit rate, multiply, divide, or algebraic. They've solved the proportional reasoning and give them the correct answer for 288. Point. Algebra, we have a constant, so the first thing I'm going to do is remove the constant on both sides. Negative 2x is equal to negative 14. Divide both sides by negative 2, and x will equal positive 7. 1 point for the work, 1 point for the answer. Next question, constant's 3, so I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. When we have this, remember we said leave your negative sign in your denominator, it's always easiest. Multiply both sides by negative 5, and x will equal a positive 105. 1 point for appropriate work, 1 point for the correct answer of 105.